Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are going to begin with singing, and this is definitely a song that you are going to want to rise in body and spirit. It's a zipper song. The words are very easy to catch along with, so as soon as you feel like you've got it, feel free to let yourself move in the space and join in singing when the Spirit says do. It's number 1024 in the Teal hymnal, but the words are also in the on the screen. Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. Welcome to this singing, dancing, marching, shouting, loving community of seekers. Here where we strive to live with integrity, nurture wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. It is good to be here together this morning, good to be here together to honor the work and legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to commit to doing that work in our time and in our moment as our Spirit calls us to do. Thank you for taking time to nurture your spirit here among us this morning. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton. My pronouns are she, her, and I am delighted to have you joining us, whether it's your 50th time or your first time or your 500th time, whether you're here in our physical sanctuary or joining us in our online sanctuary. We are one community, and we welcome you. We would love to get to know you better if you're visiting with us. You can stop by our welcome table after the service. You can click the visitor link in the screen online so that we can keep connected with you about all the things that are going on in this community. And next Sunday, we are going to be having our new member service when we recognize the newest folks who've joined this community, followed by a lunch for our new members. So if you've joined in the past, 6 months or so, please reach out to Kira and let her know that you would like to attend next Sunday so we know how much food to make. And many thanks to our membership ministry team for helping feed us both body and spirit next week. And there is childcare available. Kids are always welcome to join us for lunch, but our childcare space down in Star King is also fabulous, and sometimes that is the place to be when we're up here in Parish Hall. We will have childcare available for those that want it. We have a lot going on as we turn into a new year here at the congregation. And one of the things we are starting off that I want to highlight this morning is the beginning of our connection circles, our next session of these small groups that gather in homes on campus to get to know one another. And I'd like to invite Kyle Stewart to come forward and tell us a little bit more.
Good morning. So I'm Kyle Stewart. I am a member of the Board of Trustees here at the Unitarian Society. Been a member for about 10 years now. This is a little bit about Connection Circles. Connection Circles are one of the best opportunities at USSB to get to deeply know and connect with other members of the congregation, particularly those you might otherwise never meet. When I first started attending USSB in 2016, my wife Sarah and I joined a connection circle to meet new people. The effect was profound. We are still friends with many folks that we met during that first circle, and I see a few of them here today. Several of those friends eagerly helped play the role of surrogate grandparents when our first son Dylan was born in 2017. By the end of that first round of connection circles, I had the opportunity to learn each participant's perspectives and stories around a variety of topics. The monthly theme, with its reading and questions, are great for folks to think deeply about both their own experiences and how we all are part of a larger community. The format involves each person getting an extended period of time to share whatever speaks to them about the topic without any interruption or commentary from other members of the circle. It can take some getting used to, but I was amazed at all of the things that I heard, as well as some of the things that I found myself sharing as we all grew to trust one another and the process. It was both a great spiritual practice and a way to build a deep sense of connection with people who started the process as strangers and ended the circle as good friends. Sarah and I have participated in a number of additional connection circles after our first experience, including 2 more with largely the same group of people as our first. We found it harder to regularly participate after the arrival of our second son, Simon, and the pandemic. We continued wanting to make space for it in our lives as we both recognize the immense value that Connection Circles offers. For the last 2 years, Sarah and I have led a circle twice a month after Sunday service that included childcare so that parents of young children such as ourselves could participate, and I welcome any such to consider joining us again. We've had a great experience with a mix of young parents, grandparents, and even one great-grandparent. We are thrilled to be able to offer that option again with the support of USSB's awesome childcare providers. I highly recommend all of you consider participating in Connection Circles. The opportunity to listen, share, and connect so profoundly is difficult to find elsewhere. You'll get to meet folks at USSB that you might otherwise never know. You might even make some deep and lasting friendships. Thank you.
You can sign up for Connection Circles online on the link in your Friday email, or talk to Carol Schwitzer in the garden. Carol, where are you if you want to raise your hand, one of our Connection Circle coordinators. Coming up in February, we also have a couple of other opportunities to get connected. We're starting off our new Lunch and Learn series. So every month throughout the spring, there'll be opportunities to gather after the service for some good food and good conversation. The first one is on February 1st with Jack Reef, opening up the topic of artificial intelligence, something I'm sure we've all been talking about over coffee anyways, so we might as well get together and have lunch while we do it. So sign up with Charla. Registration is open now. Yeah. I also want to highlight the events that are coming up tomorrow. As I mentioned, we are celebrating the Reverend Dr. King, and tomorrow there is a community-wide celebration that I hope many of you can participate in. It starts at 9 a.m. at De La Guerra Plaza with opening remarks and music. Then there is a unity march up State Street at 10 a.m., followed by the service at the Arlington at 11. I'll be participating in that service, and I'm honored to be joined for the keynote speak by Leah King, Dr. King's daughter-in-law, who will be with us this year. So if you'd like to join us, I'm thinking we're going to be getting our banner out so we can have a group of folks meeting at De La Guerra Plaza if you want to walk together up to the Arlington tomorrow. And wherever you find yourself tomorrow, whether it's at the Unity March or just at home or finding a way to be of service in the world, take some time to reflect on how you connect to the work that is ongoing today, the work of justice, the work of love, the work of kinship that are the hallmarks of Dr. King's legacy, and that we are committed to revisiting each and every year, all year round, not just on this weekend. I invite you now to take a breath, to settle yourself wherever you are. Allow yourself to be fully present to this moment, to this spirit, to this community, as we ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
Good morning. My name is Deb Karoff. I'm delighted to be here as a worship associate this morning, and thank you, Sally, for telling me to speak up. The chalice lighting this morning is called A Spark of Hope by Melanie Davis. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Every week we try and find one good thing in the world, and while searching for one good thing, I found several good things, believe it or not, that are happening in response to the ICE raids in Minneapolis. I thought I would tell you how people in Minnesota are caring for each other. Somali neighbors are feeding protesters even though they are being targeted by ICE. A pizza business is delivering pizza to immigrants afraid to go out because of ICE. A GoFundMe account for Renee Good's family has raised $1.5 million in 10 days. Demonstrators marched with puppet creators, carrying huge puppets, bringing together art and activism in freezing cold weather yesterday. A Minneapolis sex shop transformed itself into a community donation center for food and basic goods. And a brass band named Brass Solidarity gathers weekly at George Floyd Square and plays music to heal the community. There are a lot of good people in the world, and we must remind ourselves of that every day.
Because we are stronger together, I'm going to invite us in just a moment to turn to the person near you and say hello, introduce yourself, and share some words of welcome as we get to know each other here. And then we are going to sing together once again. So just a brief welcome to each other. I realize I forgot to talk about the window, so I'm going to throw it in there somewhere.
You
Yeah,
are going to do
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Okay, I won't do it.
That's okay.
I think it's better for you to talk about it, 'cause
Okay.
don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it.
Yeah, no, I'll throw it in there.
Okay.
Nice to see you. I'm glad you're doing that.
Let us continue our conversation and community after the service at coffee hour. I love the hum of connection in the room, and we have some fabulous music to move on to. But before we invite our kids up for our song this morning, I realized I forgot to share one thing during the welcome. And that's that those of you who've been in this space before notice the light is very different this morning. This is because our temporary windows are up while our stained glass windows are being repaired before they fell down on us. So this is an amazing thing because this is the first tangible outcome of the capital campaign that we are currently engaging with, both to restore parts of our sanctuary and campus that need restoration, but also to move us forward into being the kind of sustainable and resilient community that we want to be. So this is the first piece of letting some new light into our community. The windows will be restored at the end of March, and we'll be doing a window rededication at that time. But for now, enjoy the sunshine. Let's invite the kids on up.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'm Charla Brigante. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration around here. And this is the time in the service when we want to invite the kids up, kids of all ages and sizes, to come on up, join Julia on the steps for our Time for All Ages. And I mean all ages, so all of you pay attention, whether you're on the steps or not. Give the kids a couple minutes. My favorite thing that this little crop of kids does during the Time for All Ages is that they look at you and not me. They all look out at you, and I just love that. They just started doing that organically, so I think that's great. So you all can hear me, right? Even if you're not looking at me. Look at this crowd. Wow. This is awesome. Yay. All right, well, as Julia said, we are celebrating the birthday and the life of Martin Luther King Jr. this weekend, not just here at the Unitarian Society, not just in Santa Barbara, but all over the country and other parts of the world as well. And Dr. King, for those of you who don't know, he was a minister and he was a leader in the civil rights movement. He led peaceful marches and gave powerful speeches to stand up against laws that were especially unfair to Black people. He taught people to use kindness, courage, and nonviolence instead of anger or fighting. And in the 1950s and 1960s, people, including Martin Luther King Jr., led a lot of singing. There was a lot of singing during the Civil Rights Movement, and the song "We Shall Overcome" was sung at a lot of those peaceful protests and marches. Singing together helped people feel brave and reminded them that they weren't alone and that change was possible. So we're going to sing "We Shall Overcome" together in a few minutes, but first let's talk about what the song is about. So kids, I know you're not looking at me, but I'm going to be calling on you if you're so willing. So the words "we shall overcome," well, they mean we shall make things better. We will make things better. And I'm curious, what do you think that people, especially Black people, those years back and even now, need to overcome to make things better in the world? What do you think needed to be overcome? Any ideas? And any of you, shout out. Yeah, you. Segregation, yes. Who else said something else? Fighting. Yeah, slavery and racism, the lingering effects of slavery and ongoing racism. Yes, anyone else? Voting rights. Shout it out, those of you out there. Medical care, so much, right? There were so many things to overcome. Well, Dr. King believed the way to make things better, the way to overcome all of those things, especially hate, was with love. He said, hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So there's another verse we're going to sing that says, "We are not alone." And who do you think felt alone? Start with the kids. Anyone? Or who might have felt alone? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, people of color, minorities, Black people, they might have felt alone in a society, in a white-dominated society. They may have felt alone, especially if they lived in places where there weren't very many people of color. And Dr. King said, "We may all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now." And that means that even though we come from different backgrounds and different life experiences, we all share this world together, and we need to support one another. And that is just as true today as it was then. So there's another verse. What about "we'll walk hand in hand"? What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Who will walk hand in hand, and why is that important? Any ideas? All the races, everyone. That was it. Right, no, that we should all be, walking in hand together. Older and younger people walking hand in hand, yeah. Unity. Help each other, right. Everyone, brothers and sisters. Dr. King said, and you all know this part, "I have a dream that one day little Black boys and Black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers." He dreamed of a time when people of all backgrounds could be friends. And to make that happen, people needed to work together from love. And then the last verse we're going to sing is "We shall live in peace." And I'm curious, especially amongst the kids, what does it mean to you? What would that mean? What would that look like? What does living in peace mean to you? Anyone have an idea they want to share? Yeah? Not being racist. What else? Yeah, Joy. What's that, Joy? Right, Joy is talking about segregation is that word, about Black people having to use different water fountains. That was unfair. What does living in peace look like? Anyone? Respect for each other. This congregation. We're modeling that. We're trying to model that, right? Anything else? Love at the center. No fear. Yeah, just shout them out. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat everything. You guys got this. So Dr. King said, I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, by who they are as people. And when this happens, he said, we will be able to join hands and sing. Well, we still have a lot of work to do, but we are going to join hands and sing right now. And that's going to give us remind us that we're not alone and that we're doing this work with love at the center together. So I'm going to invite the kids, all of you, to stand. And if you're comfortable holding hands with the person next to you, join hands and we're going to sing We Shall Overcome. And I think the verses are going to be the verses we're doing are on the screen. Okay, are we ready, Chuck? We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We are not alone. We are not alone. We are not alone today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand today. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you all. And kids, we're going to come out with me. Matthew, you can sing them all out. Thank you all. That was beautiful.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
Every Sunday, as has been our practice since November, we take a moment to honor the butterflies on our monarch branch. Each butterfly on this branch represents someone who was abducted from our community by ICE over this past year. There are over 500 butterflies on our branch today. And this week we add 3 more to remember the 3 people abducted from Santa Barbara County last week. Although these numbers are reported and shared with us by the 805 UndocuFund, we know there are also unreported abductions that go far beyond the scope of what we count here. We are one human family, and we commit to bearing witness until this violence against our neighbors ends. We ring our bell once for each butterfly we add. I invite us into a time of prayer, meditation, and reflection. And this Sunday, I invite us into a reflection on what Dr. King called soul force. Soul force, that grounding power that allows us to confront injustice and keep going. That source of strength and renewal that wells up within us, that allows us to do the difficult work of confronting violence with something stronger. The power of loving community gathered to bear witness and to demand change. Dr. King knew that the work didn't just happen out on the marches and in the streets, but also gathered in community like this one to reground, reorient, recommit, not just alone, but together. And so I invite us into a moment of quiet reflection and contemplation to get in touch with that soul force, to reground ourselves after a chaotic week, to retouch that core of love and compassion that keeps us going. So as we enter into a time of quiet, as you attend to your body and breathing, touch that life force that beats within your heart, that holds you even in unsteady times, that provides the unshakable ground upon which we stand together. In January of 1965, the Voting Rights Campaign was launched in Selma, Alabama. Violence against the demonstrators escalated, and on February 18th, the civil rights activist James Jimmy Lee Jackson was shot and died 8 days later. In response to his death, activists planned a march from Selma to the state capitol in Montgomery. While crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the marchers were beaten and tear-gassed in what came to be known as Bloody Sunday. After this violent attack, the Reverend Dr. King put out a call for religious leaders to join him in Alabama. And dozens of Unitarian Universalist ministers answered that call. One of them was the Reverend James Reeb. On March 9th, the demonstrators returned to the bridge, and that evening, James Reeb and 2 other Unitarian Universalist ministers were assaulted. James Reeb died from his injuries 2 days later. On March 15th, the Reverend Dr. King delivered a eulogy for Reeb at the Brown Chapel in Selma, and this is an excerpt from that eulogy. Naturally, we are compelled to ask the question, who killed James Reeb? The answer is simple and rather limited when we think of the who. He was murdered by a few sick, demented, and misguided men who have the strange notion that you express dissent through murder. There is another haunting, poignant, desperate question we are forced to ask this afternoon that I asked a few days ago as we funeralized James Jackson. It is the question, what killed James Reeb? When we move from the who to the what, the blame is wide and the responsibility grows. James Reeb was murdered by the indifference of every minister of the gospel who has remained silent behind the safe security of stained glass windows. He was murdered by the irrelevancy of a church that will stand amid social evil and serve as a tail light rather than a headlight, an echo rather than a voice. He was murdered by the irresponsibility of every politician who has moved down the path of demagoguery, who has fed his constituents the stale bread of hatred and the spoiled meat of racism. He was murdered by the brutality of every sheriff and law enforcement agent who practices lawlessness in the name of the law. He was murdered by the timidity of a federal government that can spend millions of dollars a day to keep troops in South Vietnam, yet cannot protect the lives of its own citizens seeking constitutional rights. Yes, he was even murdered by the cowardice of everyone who tacitly accepts the evil system of segregation, who stands on the sidelines in the midst of a mighty struggle for justice. So in his death, James Reeb says something to each of us, black and white alike, says that we must substitute courage for caution, says to us that we must be concerned not merely about who murdered him, but about the system, the way of life, the philosophy which produced the murder. His death says to us that we must work passionately, unrelentingly, to make the American dream a reality, so he did not die in vain. Here ends the reading. We're going to sing a song, and our choir is going to come up to help us sing. This is a song that I asked Matthew to sing with us this morning because in preparation for the service at the Arlington, it's a song that we should all know, if you don't already. Lift every voice and sing. It's a song strongly associated with the foundation of the NAACP, with the civil rights movement, and with the work for healing from the past traumas of this nation. It's number 149 in our gray hymnal. You can stay seated if you like, or rise if you like. Lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we
This past week, oh dear, I contemplated the idea of talking about Dr. Martin Luther King with a great deal of humility and hesitation. It is not just my whiteness that gives me pause, or the fact that I turned 11 years old on the day that Dr. King was assassinated in 1968, which means I was not even old enough to be actively engaged in the civil rights movement. Who am I to speak about this giant of a man whose legacy continues to reverberate and whose speeches, letters, and words are so incredibly prescient, decades after his death, and particularly in this moment? All I can say is that I am, at heart, a caring and curious person. I know that Dr. King can continue to teach me about how I can live in ways that honor the humanity and dignity of each and every one of us, especially those who are living on the margins. What can Dr. King teach me and us about living in this moment? In 1967, Dr. King gave a speech at the annual convention of the American Psychological Association. He talked about the importance of taking a stand and the idea that urban decay, as it was called at that time, stems from racism that is systemic and rooted in policy, laws, and institutional structures. In this talk, he also introduced the idea of creative maladjustment. He says that psychologists have given us the word maladjusted to describe those who are suffering emotional and psychological pain. Psychologists work with their clients to become well-adjusted. Dr. King said to the audience, and I quote, "I am sure that we all recognize that there are some things in our society, some things in our world to which we should never be adjusted. There are some things concerning which we must always be maladjusted if we are to be people of goodwill. Racial discrimination and racial segregation, religious bigotry, economic conditions that take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few, the madness of militarism, and the self-defeating effects of physical violence." He pointedly and playfully suggested that we need a new organization called the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment. 70 years later, Dr. King's words still ring true, which is a painful and shocking thought. You and I are living in a moment of major maladjustment. There is nothing normal, right, or acceptable about what is happening in our country right now. The manic and calculated violence and cruelty is overwhelming, mind-numbing, heartbreaking. I began working on this reflection roughly 10 days ago. At that time, I thought creative maladjustment was a useful way to frame the disorientation I am feeling. I am finding that I have difficulty regulating my emotional self. I can't find my usual sense of equilibrium. 8 months ago, I stood up here and talked about burrowing into my support system of family, friends, and this congregation to find some solid ground upon which to stand. At that time, I thought that if I could find solid ground, I could also stand up and show up where I was needed. Now I feel so deeply sad, so deeply enraged, so deeply betrayed by my country. My brain hurts, my heart hurts, my soul hurts. A psychiatrist named Jonathan Shea created the term moral injury to describe the psychological pain from moral transgressions during the Vietnam War. The circumstances are different, but the term seems useful to me right now. Our country has lost its moral compass. For me, and maybe for you, it feels like a moral injury. I've been doing a lot of research about Dr. King as I've worked on this reflection. One of the things I came across is an NPR story about the makeover in the Oval Office when President Obama became president. Those were the days. He installed a rug, President Obama, with some of his favorite quotations woven into it, which included Dr. King's famous quotation that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It turns out that similar language was first spoken by Reverend Theodore Parker, an abolitionist and Unitarian minister. His name was on a window here, but it was just removed recently because of the change in the windows. So in 1853, Parker said, quote, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." Here we are in the sacred space of our sanctuary, which honors a Unitarian abolitionist who inspired a Baptist preacher to write a deeply profound and hopeful statement. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. The connection between Parker and King is a through line from the past that helps me shift my perspective. It reminds me to embrace the long view. I hear it as a message from the universe, and it's telling me to keep feeding my hope through creating connection and community, to believe that justice will prevail, and to believe that love will triumph over hate. These ideas and connections offer me some solace and a piece of solid ground to stand on. I'll be there, and I hope you will join me. Thank you. Each week, we give 25% of our Sunday plate offering to a special project or organization that reflects our values in the world. Our January outreach offering will be shared with Sumi Nangwa, an organization whose mission is to provide food, clothing, medical supplies, and firewood to Navajo and Hopi elders seeking to maintain their traditional lifestyle on the reservation. Sumi Nangwa is a Hopi phrase meaning to come together to help and benefit one another with no expectation of reward. Please join me in the affirmation of gratitude and giving. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
I am
Thank you, choir and musicians, for sharing with us one of Dr. King's favorite hymns. After Jimmy Lee Jackson and James Reeb, there was a third funeral that Dr. King attended in the spring of 1965. It was for Viola Liuzzo, and her story has been very much on my mind and heart this past week in the wake of the recent killing of Renee Good. Like Renee, Viola was a mother who wanted a better world for her children and all children. Like Renee, she was a white woman motivated by her faith to show up and use her social privilege to protect her friends and neighbors from a racist system. And like Renee, she was killed and then publicly vilified by those in power. Viola was a member of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Detroit. And like Reverend Reeb, she heard Dr. King's call to come to Selma and responded. She drove her car down to Alabama and, working with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, found a role providing transportation and support for the thousands of demonstrators who were walking from Selma to Montgomery. On March 25th, she and Leroy Moten, a young African-American man who has partnered with her as a volunteer, had just dropped off their last passengers when they were overtaken on the road by 4 white men, one of whom shot at Viola in her car, killing her almost instantly and causing the car to veer into a ditch and crash into a fence. Covered in blood that was not his own, Leroy feigned death until the men were gone and he could escape for help. 3 of the men were members of the Ku Klux Klan, and the 4th was an FBI informant who had been working undercover with the Klan for several years. In the days following Viola's death, rumors circulated that she was a drug user who was having an affair with Leroy, that she was mentally unstable and a negligent mother who abandoned her children. The source of these rumors was none other than J. Edgar Hoover himself, the head of the FBI, trying to distract the media from the FBI's failures in Selma. Perhaps you can see why Viola Liuzzo's story has been on my mind and heart this week. When I learned that she was singing "We Shall Overcome" in her car as the Klan members chased her down, I wept. It is not hard to wonder if we've learned anything at all in the 60-plus years between the murders of Viola Liuzzo and Renee Good. It's not hard to wonder if we will ever be able to pull ourselves out of the whirlpool of white nationalism and violent misogyny. It's not hard to despair when we find ourselves here again, in grief and rage and fear, full of frustration that advocating for ideas that seem so simple should be so dangerous. The idea that we should love one another. The idea that human lives have worth and dignity beyond measure of wealth or status or national origin. The idea that peace is preferable to violence. These simple concepts, preached by nearly every religious tradition and established as ideals, if not realities, in the founding documents of this nation, these core values seem self-evident, as the writers of the Declaration of Independence phrased it. But as self-evident as they seem, these ideas that all people should be able to live in equal peace and dignity, it's also evident by now that these dreams will not come to pass without the ongoing and faithful efforts of people who work to make them real in each and every age. This is the ongoing struggle of being human, my friends. This is our work. They may be self-evident, but they are not inevitable. As Dr. King said at James Reeb's memorial, we must be concerned not merely about who murdered him, but about the system, the way of life, the philosophy which produced the murder. If we do not address the underlying philosophies of violence and domination that bring about these tragedies, then we are doomed to repeat them. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the civil rights organizing group of which Dr. King was one of the leaders, was established in 1957 with the goal of redeeming the soul of America. The leaders of the conference, they were not starry-eyed utopians. They had experienced firsthand some of the worst things that this country could be. I would not have blamed them one bit if they thought the national wounds were too deep and the history too traumatic to overcome. But still, they sang that someday these wounds could heal. But still, they worked for redemption. Not just for individuals on a case-by-case basis. Dr. King knew that the likelihood of Bull Connor having a sudden change of heart was slim. He and his colleagues worked for redemption on a larger scale, the redemption of a nation. They were interested in the systems that created the Bull Connors and the Ku Klux Klan and continue to show up as ICE in our current day. They fought to loosen the grip of this nation's murderous past and hold us accountable to those self-evident truths that are also a part of who we are and who we can be. Instead of a culture of cruelty, they advocated for a philosophy of kinship. If Dr. King and his compatriots could hold out hope for the redemption of this nation, for the kinship of all people, then who am I to lose my faith in that possibility as well? So I am sitting with this question: what does it mean to redeem the soul of a nation? As a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, redemption is not a theological concept that I have spent much time with. Forgiveness, repair, reconciliation, healing, these are concepts that resonate with me, but redemption, because I don't believe in that salvation-redemption binary, it didn't really seem like a tool I needed to use much. But reading Dr. King's words and pondering what the Southern Christian Leadership Council meant when they said their purpose was to redeem the soul of a nation, I realized that I had fallen into this trap of thinking of redemption purely in an individualist sense. I had allowed the fundamentalist interpretation of salvation as an individual project to cloud my vision. I was so busy rejecting that individualism that I wasn't picking up on what it means to talk about redemption collectively. In the way King saw it, redemption, like liberation, is a collective project. Individualized redemption is never the way we are going to unwind this system. It will only work if we think bigger than any one person. We can hold hope for every person to have a change of heart, but we cannot wait on that. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, King gave a clear and ringing articulation of the problem inherent in asking people to wait on their oppressors to change before taking action. He said, "Lamentably, it is an historical fact that privileged groups seldom give up their privileges voluntarily. Individuals may see the moral light and voluntarily give up their unjust posture. But as Reinhold Niebuhr has reminded us, groups tend to be more immoral than individuals." The project of redeeming a nation may be harder than the project of redeeming individuals. He goes on to say, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. For years now, I have heard the word wait. This wait has almost always meant never. We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be plunged into the abyss of despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience." I am impatient. His third book was titled "Why We Can't Wait." The work of saving the soul of a nation is not work that can rest on waiting for the perfect moment. We are in the fierce urgency of now, my friends, and if we are to save democracy, if we are salvage this ideal of becoming a nation that values equality and justice and kinship, then we cannot wait. We may have made some progress toward these ideals since Dr. King's time, but we live today in an America that is under the sway of perhaps the most autocratic leader ever elected by this nation. We are seeing the efforts of this administration to roll back any progress we have made toward justice. And more importantly, efforts to redefine the entire values system of America as a country not founded in the dream of equality, but on the raw exercise of power and domination. These two roots go deep in our American story: the longing for equality and justice and kinship, and the embrace of power and domination and control. Both of these roots are part of the tree of who we are as a nation, and it is our job to nurture and water one and prune the other. Just as Unitarian Universalism is not concerned with salvation after death, but human flourishing while we are alive, so we must concern ourselves with the redemption of the soul of this nation while the heart of democracy is still beating, and not wait until the tyranny is driven the nail into the coffin of the American experiment. We cannot wait. I will not wait for anyone's permission to love my neighbor. I will not ask for anyone's permission to own my own body and being. And I will not stand by while power is used to demand servitude and obedience rather than in the service of justice and compassion. As King said later in that same letter, human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts of men willing to be co-workers with God, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. Now is the time, he said, to make real the promise of democracy and transform our pending national elegy into a creative psalm of brotherhood. He could see the two ways in which we could go: the way that embraced the death of this vision, this dream, or the way that embraced the kinship of all people, and we had a choice as to which path we would follow. We do not have to wait for eulogies to speak truth and name injustice. We should not wait for the death of more good people before demanding we change course. But just as no single person can be allowed to hold back the tide of collective liberation, no single person will redeem us either. That too is our theology. We are not waiting for saviors. We are a prophethood of all people. If redemption is about the soul of the nation, and the nation is something that we create and hold in trust together, then it will take more than just one person's vision to make it happen. James Reeb and Jimmy Lee Jackson and Viola Liuzzo and Renee Good and even Dr. King himself, they remind us of that vision toward which we hope to grow. They inspire us, they motivate us, but they do not redeem us. Our work is much bigger than that. Much bigger than any one person can be held responsible for completing. The arc of history is long, and we are each in our time responsible for bending the parts of it that we touch. I will close with the words from one of Dr. King's last speeches, A Time to Break Silence, delivered at Riverside Church in April of 1967. America, the richest and most powerful nation in the world, can well lead the way in this revolution of values. There is nothing except a tragic death wish to prevent us from reordering our priorities so that the pursuit of peace will take precedence over the pursuit of war. There is nothing to keep us from molding a recalcitrant status quo with bruised hands until we have fashioned it into a brotherhood. There is nothing to keep us from molding a recalcitrant status quo with bruised hands until we have fashioned it into a brotherhood. Our hands and our hearts are bruised. But even with bruised hands, we can build beloved community. Even with bruised hearts, we can show up with love. The times do not demand that we be perfect, but they do demand that we be present in solidarity and kinship with one another as we refuse to let this dream die. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Please rise, all of you. Please rise in body and spirit. Please rise to sing together, because there will be singing, there must be singing. Number 1051, I Know I Can. And you'll notice that the words on the screen are a little different from the words in the Teal hymnal. They've been updated to reflect the gender inclusivity of our moment. 1015, sorry. Stay right where you are, and if you want to put your hands over your heart or take hands with someone next to you if you haven't already, if you have permission, or hold your hands open, however it is you get connected, however it is you feel that soul force grounding us and running through us this day and every day. As you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us call out a blessing.